Welcome to the Inner Revolution Podcast. I'm your host, Enoch Fossum, and this is episode 22, which is super exciting. You guys, I'm going to be honest. I wrote out an entire script for this episode, and I tried a whole teleprompter thing to try and read it to sound more professional and just trying to make it as clear as I possibly can. And I realized that is not fun. I don't feel like I'm being genuine like I want to be, and that's part of having a podcast, having a show, is learning to just be myself while trying to express my thoughts. So I scrapped it, and I have just kind of my bullet points right here. I was like, well, I want people to, not realize that I'm looking at a camera and that I'm reading a script, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, I'm going to throw that out the window, forget about it, and we're just going to go with it. I'm just going to be myself. That's what it's about. So if you learn anything from today, be yourself. Because it's a lot more fun that way. Okay. So you guys, we have talked about, we're going to talk about dropping anchor. When you get an urge, so odds are, if you're struggling with addiction, if you're watching this to begin with, if you're listening to this, you probably struggle with porn addiction, and that's okay. But you know what that cycle feels like. You get in the cycle of overwhelming urges, giving in, feeling shame, and then repeating that whole process. So it can feel like you're part of this storm that you can't get out. And it's inevitable. When you do have an urge, you feel it coming on, you're like, crap, dude. I am going to fight this for as long as I can, but hours go by, maybe even days, and then you finally give in. So, when the storm hits, what can you actually do about it? And that's what we're going to talk about today. First, I want you to take a step back and reflect on last week. When you did have an urge, what did you do about it? What happened? Did you achieve any of your goals? Did you get up, get a drink of water? Did you take a couple deep breaths? Did you go for a walk? What did you do? And remember, it's all about training your brain to actually do something different when you have an urge. Because you've had this addiction for years, most likely. I don't know you, but most likely. And so it's going to take years to retrain your brain to have it relearn these new things. So learn to be patient with yourself. And remember, if you do slip up, even if you achieve your goal that day, so even if you go get a drink of water, but you still slip up, that's still a victory. That's still a win. And so make sure you count it as one if you're keeping a little win tally, which is a good idea. So when this storm hits, how do you actually drop anchor? We're going to talk about ACE. I talked about this in my last episode, I believe. So ACE is an acronym, ACE. The A stands for acknowledge, C is connect, and E is engage. So the simple framework is going to help you drop anchor and keep you from getting swept away by these difficult emotions, urges, and self-judgment. So let's break it down. First, we'll jump into the A, which is acknowledge. Or I like to say, you name it to tame it, baby. So first, acknowledging what's happening inside of you. This means noticing your urges, emotions, and thoughts without getting into a wrestling match with them. Or remember, without engaging in that tug of war with Sully, because you're not going to win. You're not going to, when you engage, you're getting this wrestling match. If you try to wrestle Sully, dude, it's over. He's a big monster who is clapping push-ups every morning. Do you do that? Probably not. I don't. You can't win if you engage, so we need to drop the rope. And then what you got to do is acknowledge. So imagine this. You're alone. The urge to watch porn creeps in, and suddenly it feels like you have no choice. It's like your brain is running on autopilot, right? This is just what we do when you have an urge. But instead of reacting, so instead of freaking out, try pausing and acknowledging what's happening. Some things that are really helpful to say are things like, I notice that I'm feeling a strong urge to watch porn. Or I notice my body is really tense. I notice my mind is telling me, this won't hurt if we just do it once. Right? We all know what that's like. So this is like stepping outside of yourself just for a moment and observing your experience rather than being consumed by it. So this small act of labeling is what's going to create a little space. It's like hitting the pause button on a runaway train. And here's the key, is no judgment here. You're not a bad person for having urges. Your brain is simply wired for habits. That's just the way we work, man. So breaking a habit starts with awareness and not self-punishment. So learn to take a step back and realize, okay, I notice I'm having an urge to watch porn right now. And that is okay. Say that to yourself. That is okay that I'm having this urge. It's not these thoughts that are unhelpful. It's how we act and react to these thoughts that can become helpful and form these unhelpful habits in our lives. We're going down to connect, the C. So get out of your head and into the now. Oh, the C, double meaning. We're dropping anchor in a sea. So we need to connect the C. So get into the now. Learn to connect with your body in the present moment. You know, when you get that urge, you feel like it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. Like it's easy to get lost in your head and all the stories that it's telling you, right? Like, I can't fight this. I'm going to give in. I'm never going to change. Or, oh, here we go again. You know, it's just what we do when I have an urge. And your brain just kicks on that autopilot. So learning to connect. Here's some ways to connect. First, here's one way. Pronounce. Press your feet into the ground. Super simple. I'm doing it right now as we speak. Feel the sensation on the floor. Ground yourself physically to remind yourself that you're here. You're in control. Because when you're in your head, it feels like you don't have any control. Take a deep breath and realize you're here. Connect. Ground yourself. You do have control. One of my favorites is to take a slow, deep breath. Seriously, if you do that, your nervous system's going to thank you for it. This is the one that I really love. Try inhaling till your lungs are totally full and then hold it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and then slowly exhale. And then just feel how good it feels to actually exhale. Feel your shoulders relax. Feel the muscles in your neck relax a little bit. Okay, and then just feel how good it is. Feel how good it feels. I keep saying that, man. Just notice how good it feels to breathe. So that's one of my favorites. Deep breath, hold for 3 seconds, and slowly exhale. And just pay attention to how that feels. Just the simple exhale. It can go a long way. Another way to connect is to stretch. Get up. Go get a drink of water. Do some push-ups. Do those clapping push-ups because we know that we need to try and beat this monster we engage in a tug-of-war with. Right? So do anything that is going to help you break that initial habit of just going straight to the PMO. Right? Porn, masturbation, orgasm. Engage your senses. So notice what you can see, hear, touch, or smell. Maybe it's the hum of your fridge, or the feeling of your shirt on your skin, or the air moving in and out of your nose. If you pay attention to that there you go, dude. If you don't shave your nose hairs as often as you should, like I do, then you may get some extra sensations in your nose, feel the nose hairs. Yeah. Dude, I always tell people if my nose hair grew as fast as my beard, dude, I would be Gandalf the Grey in literally 2 weeks. This is a full, 3 months right here if you're watching on YouTube. So engage, learn to connect. Connect with your body in any way. If you don't like grounding your feet when you have an urge, that's fine. You don't have to do that. Find something else that's going to be helpful for you, and then stick with that. All right. The E in ACE is to engage. So do what matters, even if it's small. And this is pretty similar to connect, because you could argue that connecting is engaging, and it is in a different way. So ACT is huge in finding your values, doing what really matters to you. And so when we engage, you want to learn what matters. What are your values? And then make a decision to act on those values. So ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do in this moment that aligns with my values? What do I want to be about right now? What action, no matter how small, is going to help me break this cycle? So maybe it's texting a friend, stepping outside for fresh air, or reminding yourself, this urge will pass, and I don't have to act on it. Remember, you are in control. Or maybe it's journaling, reading something inspiring, even just drinking a glass of water. One of my really good friends, he loves music, and he writes music when he has an urge, which is awesome, and I'm all for that. And that works for him. So find something that works. The key here is to act. So even if it's tiny, taking any step towards the person you want to become is going to be a victory. So remember, the goal is not to not PMO, right? The goal is to get up and do something. Get up and act. Get up and drink some water. Get up and go for a 2-minute walk. Go to the mailbox and back. Whatever it is. And then if you still PMO later that day, that is okay. If you slip up, that's fine. As long as you actually did something first before you had an urge, that's not PMOing, okay? If it's, again, just taking that deep breath. If you did that, dude, and 10 minutes later you still ended up slipping up, that's okay. That's still a win. It's going to take time to help your brain relearn these new habits. So be patient with yourself and celebrate those victories when you do have them. Recovery isn't about taking one giant leap. It's about 1,000 small choices that lead you in that right direction. So think of like steering a ship, right? Or flying a plane. If you're just a few degrees off course, you're not going to notice at first, but over time, you're going to look back and realize you're in an entirely different place than you were before, than where you thought you'd be going, just because of some small degrees. So it's the small things in the long run that we're going for that really matter. So let's bring it all together to recap. Acknowledge what's happening. Connect with your body in the present moment and engage in something meaningful. That's how we drop anchor. And when cravings, self-doubt try to pull us under, learn to drop that anchor, acknowledge, engage. Acknowledge, connect, and engage. Now, the dropping anchor isn't meant to make these urges go away, and they're not going to, so don't expect them to. But dropping anchor will keep you from being controlled by your emotions, by these feelings, by the urge that you get, by that autopilot that seems to just tick on when you have an urge. So dropping anchor is not going to make these urges go away. It's not going to make, when a ship drops an anchor, does it make the storm go away? No, definitely not. The storm could get worse. And generally it does, right? Because your brain's trying so hard to get that dopamine level back up, to spike it real quick, to make you feel good. So it's going to try really hard. And that storm could get pretty bad. But if you drop anchor, then that storm will eventually pass, and you will remain in control. And it takes practice. So learn to drop anchor a lot, as often as you can throughout the day. If you're feeling a little anxious, maybe you're a little upset, or you're bored, whatever it is, drop anchor, dude. Practice. The more you practice, the better. In the book The Reality Slap by Russ Harris, he talks about dropping anchor, and he was working with a guy with PTSD. He used to be, well, he is a veteran, and he has really bad PTSD, and so Russ Harris recommended this guy to drop anchor 20 to 30 times a day. 20 to 30. Okay, that's a lot. But the whole point of this is to try and get you to actually be a professional anchor dropper, a professional pirate, whatever you want to be on this boat, okay? But practice makes perfect, man. And are you going to always be perfect when you do have an urge? No. But eventually, if you keep practicing, if you keep dropping anchor every time you have an urge, one day, you will be, I dare say, perfect in not giving in to these urges. You will be solid in remaining in control when you do have an urge. It just takes practice, and remember, it can take years, and most likely it will, and that's okay. We did it. So if this resonates with you, try it. Do it this week. The more you drop anchor, the stronger it's going to become, and if you slip up, that's okay. Shame keeps people stuck. Self-compassion keeps people moving forward. So remember to be compassionate toward yourself. Be patient with yourself. You're going to get through it. And if you found this episode helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might need some encouragement. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, leave me a virtual high five. However you do that, leave the high five emoji in the comments. You're the man. And then take care. Stay anchored. And remember, you are stronger than the storm. And you're not alone. There are a lot of people every day that are in these storms. And they're right there with you. So learn to drop anchor. Let's hold each other up. And you're going to get through it. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.